spend a lot of time talking about, business and business strategies. I'll let you tell you what his business is and what he does, and how I thought that this presentation he did for us in our forum was pretty impactful. And I was like, man, I think if I'm learning this, I want to share it with you guys, because I think it's knowledge that we all are kind of on the cusp of understanding, and then more importantly, figuring out how to apply to become successful in what we're currently doing, but also where we're trying to go. So with that, I won't steal too much thunder. Ethan, welcome, and I want him to introduce himself, and then we'll get you guys introduced, and then you can take it from there.
All right, hey. Good to see you guys. Good to meet some of y'all. So I'll tell you a little bit more about myself. My name is Ethan King. I've been an entrepreneur for over 20 years. My business is actually right around the corner. It's called Zeus's Closet. We do screen printing and embroidery, with like a tattoo shop for your clothes. I'll tell you a little bit more about that as we go. But yeah, I knew Mike through EO, and if we could just kind of go around the room here, tell me your name and your role with the company, just so I know who I'm talking to here.
Clint Hester, membership coach.
Okay.
Ferris role is VP of Club Operations.
Okay.
Kaylee Waters, Marketing Manager.
Okay.
I'm Amy Podgorski, and I'm the Digital Marketing and Events Coordinator.
Awesome. Okay. I know you are.
I'm the doer of anything.
Janice Richardson, Membership Coach.
Okay.
Laura Michelle, Membership Coach.
Okay. And are you guys all with this location, or are you working with the various locations, or
They're with
this location. They work with us.
We're at
We do them all.
all of them?
Us three, corporate, all of them.
Okay. Okay. Got it. All right. Perfect. Cool. All right. Well, what we're going to talk about here is digital marketing strategy. I gave this speech to the EO chapters. We were at Cape Town, South Africa at our Global Leadership Conference, and I taught all of the marketing chairs of all the EO chapters around the world in 75 different countries this strategy that I'm using to grow my personal brand and how it's helped my business grow. I'll get into more all of that. Kind of named it after the movie, a little nod to the movie here, but every day, everywhere, all at once, your digital marketing strategy, but how to be omnipresent and it not suck up all of your time, right? Because we all know social media can just be a complete time waste and a time warp, but I'm here to tell you guys how I do that without it taking up my time. So I'm the founder of Zeus's Closet. In 2018 and 19, I was the president of EO Atlanta. The year after that, I served as communications expert for EO on the whole East Coast chapter. And in 1920, we also won the EO Global Award for Best External Awareness out of the whole world, which is pretty cool with like 17,000 members. So agenda, first I'm going to talk about why you should care about digital marketing and even incorporating your personal brand into the marketing. And then we're going to talk about some stories, telling science and strategy. We're going to talk about the tactics, and then we'll go into some Q&A. And that tactics part, where I'm actually going to sit down and we're going to do some really advanced, cool stuff that I think will really help X3. So what led to this? Like when I was a kid, I used to be shy. I was like the band art nerd in high school. I went to high school down at Tri-Cities in East Point. I'm not sure if you guys are from here or familiar. My claim to fame is that Big Boy from Outkast was actually in high school with me. We were in geometry class together, and he used to cheat off my paper. All my homework every day. He'd be like, yo, player, let me get that homework. So I am responsible for all of Outkast's success. So I wanted to exercise my speaking muscles and make myself kind of get out there more. So I took Toastmasters. And then in 2014, I did a EOX talk, which is inspired by like TEDx. And that's when I introduced like my I have this formula for whole life success. I believe that we should calibrate our life among our spirituality, our intellect, our money, our physical presence, our love and relationships, and our entertaining experiences. So this is what I talk about to EO chapters and stuff. And then in 2014, right after that, I did this exercise called a lifeline, which is in EO, like one of the first things you learn, like we go really deep and vulnerable. It's not just about entrepreneur, like the business part, but also the personal part. So in this lifeline exercise, I plotted out like the lowest points in my life. Like I didn't want anyone to know, because it's like, okay, everything's confidential in here. And then you plot out the highest points in your life. So if you take your life, and I'll show you a chart of it in a minute. But that led to an interview. Like one of the guys in the group with me afterwards, he pulled me to the side. He said, hey, look, your story is just like so powerful. I'm going to connect you with this guy I know who's a reporter, and you guys should talk. And I'm like, wait a minute, man. I didn't want anybody to know the stuff I just told you. Why would I talk to a reporter? And he's like, look, just have a conversation with him and see where it goes. So the reporter came out to my office right around here and interviewed me. Next thing I know, 2 weeks later, I'm on the front page of the AJC business section. And let me see, oh, it's right here. And he talks about, so he pulls out the stuff that, of course, I didn't want people to know about, how I got robbed at gunpoint one time and had this epiphany. So this is the headline: businessman had an epiphany at gunpoint. And then they go into like my whole like business background. That's what reporters do, right? If it bleeds, it leads. But little did I know that this would actually, now that it's out there in the public, I'm like, oh, well, I might as well share it. It's just public information. But it really resonated with people. And let me go back one slide. And why you should care about this is because, one, it helps others. It puts goodwill into the universe. It makes it easier to sell stuff when people resonate with your personal story. And reputation precedes revenue. So when people identify with you as a person, more than just a brand, then they're more comfortable with you. People do business with their friends, right? It reduces competitive comparison. People aren't going to go out shopping if they feel like they're connected to you, and because people attach to people. And then, as you think about this, what are your unselfish and selfish reasons for wanting to share more of your personal brand as it helps boost the overall mission of X3? So after that article in the AJC, I ended up being in the AJC business section 3 more times that year. And I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. And then I bump into the guy, the reporter, his name is Matt Kipner. And then a few years after that, I bumped into him at the finish line of the AJC Peachtree Road Race, and he remembered me. So I believe that there's no such thing as coincidences in the universe, right? So out of 60,000 people running past the finish line, I hear this guy like, Ethan. And I'm like, what? Like, what are you doing here? And he's like, I'm Matt Kipner. So we took this picture, and he's like, your article was the most shared from the whole time I did that series in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. I was like, what? Are you kidding me? This is crazy. This is like stuff I didn't want anyone to know. So, so picking up from there, so after I was on the front page of the business section 3 times, then in 2018 I ran for EO president. I ended up being on the mic a lot. I got invited to MC this big conference we have called Nerve. And then I was nervous, this was in 2019, I was really, really nervous about speaking in front of this conference of like 1,000 entrepreneurs from all over the East Coast. So naturally, what do? You go and Google, YouTube. How do I start a speech? I didn't know what I was going to say, so I Googled how to start a speech, and I incorporated what I learned from that video, and I ended up getting a 9.5 feedback score from Nerve. Now, the point that I'm sharing that story with you, it'll come back around in just a minute, but really what I want to share with you guys here, that we're all a little bit nervous in front of the camera, right, or in front of a crowd. That's natural, but it's just a muscle that can be exercised, just like anything else, right? It's like you train people to work out here. That's a muscle that can be exercised, because I was weak in that area and I got a lot stronger, and I continue to get stronger at it every day. But you got to put in the reps, right? So then after I was president of the chapter, I went to this program at EO called Global Leadership Academy. Became really good friends with this guy right here. His name is Connor Neal. Now, Connor is an Irish guy who lives in Barcelona, and he's a really influential person. When I first met him, I was like, man, you look super familiar. Like, I know you from somewhere. And he was like, I don't know you, man. I don't know what you're talking about. And it just irked me. Like, this was a 5-day program, and it just irked me the whole time. Like, I know this guy from somewhere. And we ended up, let me see. So Connor, he's a leadership communications expert. And he encouraged us to post daily. We came up with this thing called sharing the light. And he said, share every day. Share something you've learned, because you could help someone who's like down the road from you, who's just a few steps behind you. You don't have to be an expert at it. Just get out there and share information every day online. And he showed us, like, at the end of the event, he said, I have a YouTube channel where I share my light. And I encourage you guys to follow me there. I have like 200,000 subscribers. So I went on Connor's YouTube, and I started following him. And then I realized I had already watched one of the videos, and it was how to start a speech. So Connor was the guy who helped me before I ever knew him. His video helped me, and now I think 17 million people have watched this video now. It's a great video. You should check it out. But he was a complete stranger who helped me from overseas and changed my life because I incorporated what he said, and it sent my life on a whole different trajectory. And that was another clue to me that there's more to this. There's a reason to share the knowledge that you have. And we all have knowledge in this room. You've been on earth this long. You have knowledge that can help someone else who's coming up behind you. Make sense? So my journey on social media kind of started with that. That really gave me the spark to just share every day, even when I didn't feel like it, even when I felt like, oh, this is corny, this doesn't make any sense, I look crazy, I'm tired, but just get out there and share it every day. So that started in December of 2019. Then in 2020, I ended up on the cover of Best Self magazine in Atlanta, which was crazy. It was like this over 40 and fabulous contest. And then in 2021, I launched an online program called Six Pack Dads to help other middle-aged dads get in shape after COVID. It was an online program. In 2021, I was invited to interview Gary Vee at this conference and co-host the big leadership conference, GLCX, which had like 8,000 people. Then I became like this Atlanta beauty influencer, which is crazy. In 2022, I published my book, Wealth Beyond Money, which ended up becoming a bestseller in 50 different categories on Amazon and #1 in 3 categories and in 2 different countries. So I was like blown away by the success of the book. And in 2021 and 2022, we had our best years in Stuff for Greeks and Zeus's Closet. So Stuff for Greeks is another company I have where we sell fraternity and sorority paraphernalia. So all of this is residual stuff that I didn't go into sharing because I wanted to do these things. Like I had no idea these would happen, but it happened because I was putting myself out there. Does that make sense? So there's other benefits to it besides just, of course, getting more members in the door. Everybody in here will see residual benefit to sharing your personal brand. And now in 2023, I speak at a lot of EO chapters and I just spoke in Cape Town, etc. So this is my lifeline that I was telling you about. So if you wanted to do this for yourselves in a group, you start with your birth and then your current age, and then you plot the lowest points in your life. One of my earliest memories was I remember my parents getting divorced, and they came to me and they were like, "Who do you want to go with, mom or your daddy?" And it was like, that really shaped my life. I was like 4 years old, and that's the first thing I remember. And then, like when I was a teenager, I got arrested twice. I got suspended from college. I couldn't get a job. I ended up taking out the trash at a strip club in the south side of Atlanta. Then I got carjacked, and then a little bit later, there was a lawsuit. But in between that, I had high points in my life, like when my daughter Imana was born. Like then when we won the Bulldog 100 award from UGA that recognizes the 100 fastest growing businesses from UGA grads. And what's crazy is then you start to tie things together. And when I got this award, the person who handed me the trophy happened to be the same president who suspended me from UGA 10 years earlier. So you start to connect these dots. And then I joined EO, then I had my son Legend, and then I became president of EO. So you have these high points, you have these low points. But here, the secret is here that if you, see, most of us want to just only talk about the high points, right? That's natural. We're really protective. We're scared to be vulnerable. But if you only talk about your high points, then people are like, oh, this douchebag, who's this guy? I don't want to hear him. But if you go and you talk about the low points, everybody connects with that because everybody deals with bullshit in life. That's just the way life is. So just remember, there is a benefit to being vulnerable and to sharing those low points in your life if you have a strategy to it, which I'm going to get into the strategy. But make sure you lean into those pain points. So the elements of a good story: be vulnerable, show movement from low points to high points, show what vehicle got you there and what monster you defeated along the way. Because that's what storytelling is. In every movie that we watch, it's like, oh, the hero had to defeat this monster and the hero was the underdog, but he had to do that to get to the end, right? Let someone else tell your highs if you can. Like if you're speaking somewhere and you have somebody else introduce you, they can tell all the awards and all the good stuff, and then that way you can come in and talk about the vulnerable and painful moments. That sets you up in a better position so you're not sitting there and it doesn't come off like you're just gloating about yourself. Here are a few storytelling formulas: money, movement, sex, mastery. Those are the elements of a good story. Got that from Ty Lopez. Then you have the hero's journey. If you read the book Story Brand by Donald Miller. And I won't go into too deep on all of this, but these are great things to look up. Either read the book or look up YouTube videos about. There's a formula to all these different storytellings. And then there's an Epiphany Bridge story by Russell Brunson. in the book Expert Secrets. And then one of my favorites is this book called Save the Cat. And you can go to savethecat.com, and it has the book and all these different resources. And they'll break down like recent movies, like they break down the new Spider-Man movie, and they explain the psychology of the story and how it was arranged in these things called story beats and why it resonates. So it's really, really fascinating stuff. But here's the most basic form of storytelling, or what I call the story selling formula. It's like, okay, I was down here, now I'm here, and this is the vehicle that got me there. And this applies to anything, right? You know, I was fat, and then now I'm 45 pounds lighter, and X3 is the vehicle that got me there. Or you can get even more narrow and say, oh, well, no, it was kickboxing that got me there, or it was this particular exercise. Whatever it is that you're trying to, quote unquote, sell or influence someone to do, if you use this basic framework, and this can be a 20-second story. It doesn't have to be a 20-minute story. It could be a book. It can be any length of time. But this is the formula you want to have. It's like, so when you're doing testimonials, it's like, okay, so-and-so was here, now she's here because she did this. So remember that X3 is kind of the center of that story. So which social media platform should you choose? Any guesses here? There you go. All right. Yes, he is paying attention to all of them. But in case you're curious, these are some recent stats on the top social media platforms right now. Of course, it's always changing, and then we just had Threads come out. But you know, Facebook is still the big boy. Been in the game the longest. You know, everybody's on there from all ages. And then it kind of goes down from Instagram and so forth. Here's from another source, still showing Facebook at the top. YouTube is a very dominant player because YouTube is owned by Google, and so YouTube is the second biggest search engine in the world. Google's number one. They're both owned by the same company, so you definitely want to play in that space, and then it goes down from there. But why is this important? Attention is the new oil. I've heard Alex Hormozy say this, heard quite a few other people say it, but this is, we want to capitalize on people's attention and get as much of it as we can, because then you can do what you want with it. I saw this thing. I'm not sure if it's real or if it's a joke, but have you seen the Shaquille O'Neal pregnancy test? Like, it might be a meme. You can Google it. But the point is that Shaq can sell anything, right? It doesn't have to be related to basketball. This man can sell anything because he has the fame. Look at the Kardashians. Look at Kylie Jenner becoming a billionaire off of makeup. It doesn't matter. It's because of the fame. That's why she can do it. So once you have the attention, then you can do anything. So here are the benefits of posting daily on every platform. Consistency builds trust. People see you showing up every day, they trust you more. Exposure to non-followers who may become potential members of the gym, obviously. You're going to increase member engagement for people who are already members. It gives you, it increases your celebrity status or your perceived celebrity status. And it increases attendance. It increases, like it's going to have people who are already members come more often because they see it. They feel like they're missing out on things. And it increases member retention. Now, some things to keep in mind is that when you post organically to these platforms, they only show it to less than 10% of your audience, naturally. Why? Because they want to make money. They want you to pay to play. So if you post something, you're like, oh man, nobody saw this thing, don't be discouraged. Instagram probably didn't show it to that many people. Now, another thing to keep in mind, another benefit of posting on all platforms is that the exact same video might get 20,000 views on YouTube, but only get 500 views on Instagram. And then it might get way more on TikTok. It could be the exact same thing. So the algorithms are different, the timing's different, so that by posting it to different platforms, you get more data points. These days, it takes about 20 touch points before someone takes action, which I'll break down on another slide. And it's also a sign of life. If they come to your profile and don't see recent activity, they're gonna start to wonder, are these guys even still in business? Are they still around? So you gotta show that there's blood flowing in your social media account. And then when you on your social, the goal is to compel people to follow and join your email list so that you can then retarget them once they visit your website and then set up an email nurture sequence. Getting people to follow you on social media alone isn't that beneficial because you don't have their contact information and you're at the whims and the control of the social media companies, and they can easily just limit how much they show your posts to your followers. So having followers doesn't mean that much. The goal is to get them onto your email list. And then if you didn't post it, did it even happen? That's kind of the mindset of things today, right? Now, there's no such thing as overexposure. So back to that 20 touch point thing, as long as you're posting relevant content, like the first 4 times you see something, like you barely even notice it. It's like not even on your radar. We're so used to just scrolling. Then the 5th time you finally read it. 6 to 8 times it starts to kind of annoy you a little bit. By the 9th time you start to wonder, oh, maybe there's something to this. 10, 11, 12, then maybe you hit their website and you're like, oh, okay, maybe I should ask some people about this. By the 13th time you see it, then you decide that the product or service is worth something. 14 through 19, you convince yourself to make a purchase and maybe start saving for it. And by the 20th time you see it, then you're sold. But you don't realize, oh, I've seen this thing 20 times. It's just hit your subconscious that many times.
Yeah, this is something I think we talk about it at length at different levels, but I mean, if we, what we do every single day is just constantly trying to get through those 20 points.
Mm-hmm.
And it's real easy to go, we got all these, I called them once, I sent the email, it's like, and how many people quit? You said the 6th to 8th is where it becomes annoying, and like, well, I don't want to annoy somebody, so
Right.
then we stop, and then all of a sudden we lose everything.
Yeah, you got to push through that.
Yeah.
So now let's talk about your profile page setup. And I'm probably going to be Instagram heavy here, but you can apply these same practices to most platforms. The first thing, is because when people are following you, you're putting out content that they resonate with, they're going to go check out your profile, right? That's what people do. They're going to look for a few things. One, are your stories lit up? And that's another kind of way of saying, like, is your porch light on? Is this person home? Everybody understand what I mean by the stories up in the top corner. That means you've posted in your stories within the past 24 hours. So you want to keep your stories active, keep it alive. Don't overthink it. Just post it to your stories. And if you have a team of people who is like posting to the same stories account over and over again, then those stories are always going to be lit up. That's showing activity. When was your most recent post is the next thing they're going to look at. If your last post was in 2021, they're going to think, well, these people aren't even around, right? They're going to look at your ratio of followers to following. Of course, if you're a brand, you should have way more followers than people you're following. Then they're going to read your bio to see what you're about. They're going to look at your story highlights under that. So as you have things in these stories, you can archive them to your story highlights. And then they're going to look at the value of your content. One tip, you always want to show human faces. That should be really easy for you guys since you're a fitness center. But a lot of my clients, they'll like just have words on their posts or things like that, or signs or objects. People resonate with people. There have been studies. There was a marketing study where they held like a magazine up in front of a baby or something. One magazine had words on that ad. It was all words, and another one had a human face on the ad. And the baby's eyes always went to the human face. It's just natural. We're programmed to look at faces. So incorporate faces into your marketing wherever you can. And then the next thing they're going to look at is your links. Right now, Linktree is probably one of the best options for Instagram where you can have multiple links. So here are some examples. I initially did this for a nonprofit organization, so all of these are nonprofits, but you can see here, the stories are lit up. Boom, boom, boom. The follower count. Followers much higher than people they're following. And then you have their bio here. Keep it very straightforward to the point. Incorporate some emojis in there. Then you have your links right here. And then you have your story highlights here. And it would be good to organize those in a way maybe that align with like the core values of the company or the brand or something like that. Or if you have 5 of them, it doesn't have to be 5 because you can scroll past it. But if you have something that's 5 that you can organize something neatly into, that would be great. And then you see how in the pictures here, there are human faces in every, both above the fold here, you see some faces. Now they have some text, but at least you see some faces looking back at you. And what to post. All right. So some content ideas for you guys, member success stories, event teasers, and you want to post event recaps so people feel a little bit of FOMO, right? Upcoming events, testimonial videos. You can even throw back to past events that you had like last year. Use hashtags like Wayback Wednesday or Throwback Thursday or Flashback Friday if you want to bring some stuff from the past into the present. Powerful quotes and things like that to motivate people, like Motivation Mondays. You can do micro clips from maybe podcast interviews, from things that you're doing, from speeches, from workshops. if you're doing, I know you guys have the X3 Foundation, so like volunteering, doing stuff in the community, that is big content for social media. And for more ideas, you can use ChatGPT-4. And I'll get deep into this later on another slide. And then we're gonna work through ChatGPT. Y'all are gonna like that part. But every communication that you give should do at least one of these: educate, entertain, or inspire. Or if you can hit all three in one post, that's great. An easy way to think about educate is start with the word how to. Like, I'm doing this post, it's gonna show you, you're gonna learn how to blah, blah, blah. How to blah, blah, blah. Then make it a little bit entertaining, have some drama in there. And then an inspirational post, think from to. Like I showed you on the earlier slide, so-and-so went from here to here, here's how she got there. The key thing is, when you've seen these icons at the bottom of every social media post, right? You can like, comment, share it, or save it. What do you think are the most important ones? Yep, share and save. These two. When you create content, you want to create content that, is this going to make somebody want to click this button and send it to their friends? Send it to their boyfriend, send it to their mom. Or is they going to want to click it so they can come back to it later? When stuff is educational, entertaining, and inspiring, people want to do these two things. And when Instagram is grading your engagement on a post, they're looking at these hold more weight than just a like. Comments are come in like second place. But the thing with comments is you want to make sure you're responding to those comments and keeping the conversation going. These are things that boost visibility of a post and also therefore boost the visibility of your profile so that you get more followers, so that you get more people onto your email list and so forth. It all just comes down the funnel. So here's a template for your captions under your post. You want to have your hook. Hook is usually in the form of a question, like, hey, want to learn how to do blah, 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 so you can blah, blah, blah? Question mark, that hooks people in. And then here's the content. This was for an EO event, so it's like, join us for an evening with Warren Rustan. Well, he will share, and you want to tell what's in it for the person. That's what you want to share in the content. What's in it for the reader? And then the call to action. Register at the link in our bio. And then you want to have your hashtags. So that's the format for every post. Hook, content, call to action, and hashtags. If you're having a big event here, then treat it like a Marvel movie release. So too many times I see companies and brands, if they're having an event, they'll do one post about it. Like, yeah, we're having so-and-so this Saturday. No, instead, think about it like a big movie and go have teasers coming out months ahead of time. Have a little 15-second teaser trailer. Then have another one, teaser trailer part 2. And then you have 3 times, then you have your longer trailers, and you really build up to like a major event. And then you can do like a behind the scenes setup in your stories. Oh, we're getting ready for this event, and that would be like in your stories. And then stories throughout the event, have multiple people sharing from their perspective. And then during the event, of course, you have 3 big posts, and then after the event, you have some event reflections. These are all posts that you can do around one event, and that you should do around one event, especially if it's like a big signature event. And then later down the road, you can always do flashbacks to that event. Some tips for more exposure are use trending audio on your reels. That tends to give it a boost. Superimpose words on the video too. So when I was talking about the captions earlier, that's the words under your post, but you should also put some words on the video that'll hook people in and make them actually want to watch the video. Then once you do a post, share it to your stories also, and so that people will link back to your post and watch it. And then ask members to engage on your post fast. And you guys are a team. You all can, of course, go from your personal accounts and like and comment on a post from X3. So the more people that engage with the post within like the first few hours, the more visibility that the algorithm is going to give it. They're going to be like, oh, this is hot. This is keeping people engaged, so we're going to show it to more people. That's just how it works. So you can kind of trick the system a little bit by having multiple people that you know go in and comment and engage with the post. When a post performs well, consider boosting it, like putting a little bit of money behind it, kind of converting it into an ad for a small amount. I do this with my personal brand, where if I see like, oh, this really resonates with people, I might throw $1 a day behind it, just so it'll show it to more people who aren't following me, who don't know me. And then make sure you like and reply to comments quickly. So how do we get all of this done? So this is the talk when I was interviewing Gary Vee, and he told me about this piece that he has on the internet called "How to Make 64 Pieces of Content in a Day." I encourage all you guys to check that out. If you guys, everybody knows who Gary Vee is. Okay. As you know, he's everywhere. He's posting content all the time, but this gives you a good strategy for how to get a lot of pieces in a day. So here's how I do it, and I'm gonna go through each of these steps. Well, for one, you wanna have a shared content repository, and you can use Later or Trello or like Google Drive, or you can even use your IG stories as a content repository, which is a good strategy because then you're keeping your stories active. Like you can then, as a team, everybody can access the story archives and pull that out to create content from. So that's kind of a double whammy there. Have a team of contributing influencers. Maybe hire someone on Fiverr to repurpose the content for you and post on platforms daily. That can often be cheaper than having somebody in-house manage it. Or there's an app that I'll show you guys called video.ai that'll chop up videos for you. Use ChatGPT to help with captions and content ideas. Make sure you reply to your comments and messages. So when I said the 15 minutes a day, me personally, like I have a guy who does all this for me. I go on social media and I spend 15 minutes just replying to comments and messages. I don't spend a lot of time on social media because it'll just suck up my whole day. And then boost posts that perform well with some money. So step one, capturing the raw content. First of all, record everything you do. Like there can be no shortage of cameras. I mean, I'm recording this right now for myself because then I can use this content to chop up later, right? I might say something cool to you guys. But if you're not recording, then you're gonna miss that cool thing you said. Then you can't go back and, oh, do that again. It's never the same, right? So I have cameras everywhere. I have a team of people always recording. You can use Nest cams. You can use all kinds of stuff. You just set up tripods, old iPhones, things like that. And then dump it in a repository and then have someone keep that repository organized. So I'm gonna show you some ways to do that. So this is what I use. I prefer Trello. Have you guys heard of Trello? Okay. So Trello is a Kanban style kind of, and I think they have a very generous free account. And so what I do, I share this with my social media guy, and whenever I record something, I just dump wherever it lives, like if it lives on Google Drive, or if it, let's say I was a guest on a podcast, and they put it on their YouTube channel, or wherever it is, I just put a link in here. It might be an online course that I did, and I just drop them in this thing. And these are videos to chop into talks, and then he'll go in here and he'll pull it, okay, it's ready to post, and then once it's posted, it goes over here. So that's a great way to do it. That's the way I prefer. You could also use Google Drive, and I'll show you later in just a moment. Now, if you hire someone to do this, cool, but if you want to do it yourself in-house, this app is awesome. It's called video.ai, V-I-D-Y-O.ai. And it'll just take a YouTube link and literally chop it into reels for you using AI. And it knows how to pull out parts that are likely to go viral. And they have a very generous free account also. So I was playing around with this and put one of my YouTube links in there, and see, it just automatically takes the YouTube link and chops it into these tiny, like 39 seconds, 58 seconds, 30 seconds. It comes up with the titles for you based on what you're saying. It puts the captions on the video for you, and it does all this in like seconds. It's crazy. And then if you do the paid version, they'll even generate the captions for you. But I don't do this because I use ChatGPT to generate my captions, but they probably use ChatGPT on the back end also. It's just kind of a plug-in. But super cool, right? I'm pretty sure this is what my social media guy uses, but if I wanted to do it myself, it's not that hard to do it. Step 3, of course, you got to write the captions. So ChatGPT Plus, using in the Plus, I think it's like $20 a month, totally worth it. But that allows you to use ChatGPT version 4, which is a lot smarter than ChatGPT 3.5, which is free. And it also gives you access to plugins, which can go out and search the web. That's key. You'll see why in just a minute. Or you can do Video Pro, or Jasper.ai is another one that will help you write great captions. Trust me, this is so much better than trying to sit down and think of captions yourself. Those days are gone. I mean, that would be the equivalent of me trying to do long division, writing it out. Of course, I'm just going to whip out my calculator. I mean, that's just where we are now. ChatGPT is just a huge calculator for language and art, things like that. So here's what I did. Here's how you prime ChatGPT. And I'm gonna send Mike the exact thing where you can just load it into your ChatGPT. But you have to get ChatGPT's mind right. It's like, okay, I'm gonna give you a URL. I want you to use the web browsing plugin. So this is why you have to have ChatGPT-4, and you enable these plugins here that allow it to browse the web. Otherwise, ChatGPT is limited to information from 2021. But I want you to use the web browsing plugin to read the contents of a website so you have a great understanding of the business. Then I want you to act as an expert social media content creator for the business that you just learned about. You are extremely skilled at writing compelling copy that inspires people to take action. The content that you create should be educational, inspiring, using from-to stories. This is the stuff that I just taught you guys about, right? And or use the pain, agitate, solution framework. Now, I didn't talk about that, but what that, it's a style of writing that basically magnifies the pain somebody's in. It's like, oh, okay, well, you're feeling sluggish in the morning, whatever. Does that make you feel a certain way? And it's like, here's the solution. So you can do it in one sentence, 2 sentences, but pain, agitate, solution is the formula for that. And then every piece of content you make is something that viewers want to share and or save. This is all stuff that I just went over with you guys, right? So you're training ChatGPT in this one paragraph to think that way. And then here's what you want to do. In table format, I want you to list the following. 25 content ideas for the business's Instagram account, 25 viral TikTok ideas for the business, and subject lines for a 25 email nurture campaign. Do you understand? And I'm going to show you the results of this when I'm done with this presentation. Of course, I put in X3 Sports, so you get to see what it came up with after this. And then here's some follow-up ChatGPT prompts. Oh, now I want you continue to have this conversation with ChatGPT in the same thread. It's like, okay, great. Now I want you to write 3 different emails to promote whatever kickboxing event we have coming up, right? Include subject lines that evoke curiosity, and then the body of each email should be around 200 words. Now write 3 Facebook posts to promote this, whatever it is you want to promote. It might be a special you guys are having. Maybe sign up for a year and save 20%. You just fill in the blanks with what you wanted to promote, and it's going to come up with Facebook posts, Instagram posts, LinkedIn posts. And then if you had an event, this is really cool. You can just tell ChatGPT about the event, and then say, imagine you attended this event. What are your top 3 takeaways? And it'll just make up something, and usually it hits the nail on the head. It's kind of crazy. So step 4 is then you're going to schedule the post. You're going to use later.com to schedule and automate posting for you. Now, a bit of a warning with this. Sometimes when you use apps to post to platforms for you, the platforms don't like that, so they'll limit the visibility. They'll let you do it, but they'll limit the visibility of your post because they want you to be on there. They want to suck up your time, so that you're kind of cheating the system if you go around the back door and then use an app to do it. So just be careful about that. Keep an eye on your insights and your numbers. Like this happened to me with TikTok. I started noticing that my TikToks were getting 0 views or 1 view. And it's like, dude, this doesn't make any sense. So I told my social media guys, like, hey, stop posting from later and post directly to TikTok. And then the views just started going back up into the hundreds and into the thousands. So just make sure you're mindful of that. But now this does take more time to post natively, but you could use later to, instead of post for you, it can pop up a reminder and say, hey, it's time to make this post, and then you go do it. So that still saves you time, but it's not a full automation. Does that make sense? Okay. So here's what later looks like. This is actually from my account. You can have multiple brands in one later account. So this is from my personal brand account. So later has a library that's over here. So after my social media guy chops everything into video clips, like TikTok size clips, they get dumped into this library. And then you can click on it and then actually assign a caption to it, and it'll tell you how many times it was used. Then you can plot it on the calendar, like where you want it to appear and which account. So it has Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, TikTok, LinkedIn. Like you can set up all of this to it'll just do it for you if you want. It'll post to all these accounts for you once you get your account set up, or it can set up the notification. Really, really cool tool. That's my favorite tool for organizing social media. Step 5, make sure you reply to comments and direct messages. Why? Because 1, it boosts visibility. The more comments and interactions a post has within the first hour, then the more the app will show it to more people. 2nd, it boosts endearment. Make sure you answer people quickly. It's rude to leave people on red in your DMs, so make sure you go in there and check that and reply. And then it's a great way to collect emails. So when people DM, ask them to email you for the next step. Try to get them to email however you can. It could be an opt-in form, or just be like, hey, email us this. With our company, with Zeus's Closet, people hit us in the DMs and try to get a quote on something. We don't give quotes in DMs. Say, here, you need to email this information to this address because we can't give quotes on social media. And then they'll gladly do it. But now we can keep in touch. Now we have contact information. If I just give them an answer in the DM, I don't actually have their contact information if something happens to that social media app.
Be a great way to prospect, like we're talking about prospecting, and just even with your own platform, people back and forth. We talked about using that, but then it's like, hey, shoot me, email me here, and I can give you X, Y, or Z.
Yeah.
And it creates that engagement a lot tighter.
Mm-hmm. Because that way you can send them like PDFs and things like that. Have a reason to get them to email. So step 5 is to boost high-performing posts. So here's the step-by-step on how you do that. Go into your insights on Instagram by clicking on your professional dashboard, and you click on See All. And then go down, then it'll show you content you shared. And then if you click on See All there, then it'll tell you which of your content lately has gotten the most views. And then if you kind of look at, and you can do, this is like last 30 days, but you can do the past year or whatever, and you'll start to see trends like what's resonating with people. Like recently, I posted something about AI. Oh, well, that's resonating with people. I should talk about AI more. Maybe throw a couple of dollars behind this and get more exposure. Then I get more followers because people are already in tune with that. So you get to see trends instead of guessing. Make sure you look at your insights. And then you go to the reel. If you want to boost it, you just click on Boost Reel, and you just throw a little bit of money behind it to give it more exposure. So, and then think about who, not how. Now, we all have things to do. Now, it's good that you have dedicated people, but some companies are a lot smaller. There might be 1 or 2 person shops that don't have someone. Or if you want to get extra hands, you can go to Fiverr and get somebody to kind of take the load off for you so you guys can focus on making content and not doing the granular stuff. It's super cheap. I mean, for $30, this person will do like 3 short videos, TikTok Reels shorts. It's a good way to get some inexpensive help. And one trick to Fiverr is you don't always have to just look around for jobs that people already have out there. You can create your own job by using that post a request button. And then this is like a description that I gave to find my social media guy. So I was looking for strategy content, editing of short form video content, from podcast clips, audio clips, and camera facing videos. And then his name is Dane. He said, post 1 video per day, including captions for a period of 30 days on Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube Shorts. And it's only $550 a month to have that help and that support, right? And now I have him doing this for like all of my brands. And there's economies of scale. He gives me a discount for doing it more. So it's a great extra set of helping hands to have that access. All right, so any questions? I know that was a lot. Any questions right now? We're going to jump into ChatGPT after this. So is there any questions about anything I went over so far? All right, cool.
No, I hope everybody's gaining, because one of the things is we're all looking at it from different lenses, and one thing that we've talked about in terms of how we want to expand, not just X3, but how do you make every individual successful, who then can in turn make the brand or the company or the team, right? Teams don't win because one person.
Right.
They win, and so we build individual brands, or the more we can learn this from either an individual level to more of a bigger strategic, like, oh, we got to do this for the whole company versus myself, like versus my location, versus how do we just win here and then show everybody else how we magnify that. Great stuff so far. I really appreciate it. I hope we're all kind of seeing it from different angles. I'm writing shit that I've already gone through one before, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. There's this, there's this, there's this.
Yeah.
So
You make a great point. I mean, it's not an either or, it's an and thing. Like the team wins and each of your personal brands win, Golden State wins and Steph Curry wins, so it's all of the above, right? All right, so let's see, make sure I got everything here.
does anybody need a break real quick?
Yeah, I do, and I do have
Yeah,
a question.
okay.
You didn't go into the highest and the highest moments and the lowest moments part. You said you were gonna say what was the reason for that, what's the reason for writing that down, like.
On the lifeline thing with the
Yeah,
highs and the
lifeline.
lows.
Yeah.
So that was the EO exercise I did, and we do that in EO to understand each other deeply and to form stronger connections. but that's what ended up getting published in the newspaper, and then that's what resonated with people is those low parts, those like those dark parts of yourself that you worked on that you maybe don't want to talk about, but other people will identify with that. That's why bringing those out kind of, and sometimes we bury stuff so deep in our minds that we kind of forget about it. It's like, man, that, some dark stuff. But everybody else, 8 billion people in the world, we all got pain, we all got struggles, and that's where the connection is, those low parts. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I think you maybe when we take a quick break, come back and tell the story, because I think that was, I don't know if you guys haven't heard it yet, but it's what actually made sense to me is like a lot of times the things that you've overcome, you want to put it behind you and be like, and not share that because it was painful or it was like, I don't want people to know I was scared or I didn't know what I was doing or I was afraid or I went through that trauma. And then what happens is, and so then we put on this, tough or this different exterior, which is great, except for people who are like, well, it must have been easy for you. 'Cause
Yeah.
You've never had to go through it. And by sharing it, people are like, holy shit, I didn't know that this person has felt that way too. I go through that. And
Yeah.
now all of a sudden I'm like, you have a different level of empathy as well as now I want to connect to you because I see you're human. You're must be nice. Janice has just always been good at this, and so
Yeah.
she's never had to work at it, as opposed to, fucking, I'm sitting here, telling you the story of being broke or,
Yeah.
having my car repossessed or, evicted or all the things that most people may or may not. And honestly, I don't want to tell you about it because it's embarrassing.
Right, yeah.
It's like, God,
Yeah.
I see myself different now, but you weren't always that person. So like people who you're trying to inspire or motivate or even help, especially in fitness, right? People can look at,
Yeah.
easy for you guys, I mean,
Yeah.
you don't have to work at it. You're just naturally that way. And they're like, well, no, not necessarily.
Right.
And sort of the two, what was it? I wrote it down, from to.
From to, yeah.
Well, so what would you say about priming social media? So if we're talking about Instagram specifically, right? And then we have our own individual personal brands. We have our own individual personal pages, right?
Mhm.
So when it comes to using that personal brand to help build up X3 and getting memberships and things like that, and also building up your own personal brand, how would you prime those people? Like, are you posting your from to story first, or are you posting X3 stuff first? Is there a combination of both, or like how do you kind of build that,
Yeah.
getting people to see what your brand actually is all about, if that makes sense?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, and the thing you never know when somebody's going to come into your story on social media, right? So it's not necessarily a chronological thing, but that's where you use your bio, your bio section on your profile page, because you're posting. Let's say you're posting a year from now, and I just catch you doing a workout or something on Instagram, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. Who is this? And you have your name there. It's like what's your handle on? What's your personal handle?
Low is right.
Low is right.
Low was right. Yeah.
Okay, Low is right. Low is right doing, training on Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with so-and-so in the X3 Sports handle. So both of your handles are in there, yours and the company's, right? And then so somebody's following that, and then they click on your profile, and then they see your story in your bio. And that's where you also use your story highlights. You can take one of your story highlights and kind of just tell it. It could be a quick story, like a 1-minute story, right? Say, hey, guys, I was here. I was struggling when I was 15 years old with asthma, this and that. Like, that's my story. Like, when I was young, I had asthma. I couldn't run a mile to save my life. Like, I would get winded and so forth. I got chubby. I didn't start working out till I was 30 years old. Now I run marathons and stuff. And then this is what changed. Like, my brother convinced me to run the Peachtree, and I just decided I was going to do something different about it, started listening to books and podcasts. So that, like, I share that journey in a super quick story. But that's what your bio and stuff is reserved for. Like, find a way to tell your story using all those elements of your bio. Cool.
Yeah, great question. All right, guys, let's take 5 minutes, run the restroom real quick, and then we'll just come back.
Cool.